the final point that I wanted to emphasize is that we also endorse an idea which developing countries strongly push for, or not all, but many developing countries push for, after the Asian crisis and before, in different incarnations, which is the idea of international debt restructuring court. So an international mechanism by which countries that have difficulties in paying their debts, their external liabilities, it can go and do a formal process of restructuring, such as it is done by a bankrupt firm in national bankruptcy regimes. But there is nothing of the sort at the global level, which implies that there are lots of inequities, horizontal, vertical inequities, in the way debt crises are resolved. So a formal mechanism that has been suggested several times, is also part of the agenda. And may I just add as an advertisement for one point that I usually make, it's not in the report, which is the Latin American debt crisis is never recognized as a U.S. banking crisis, which it was. Had Latin America not paid the debt, all the major banks of the U.S. would have gone bankrupt. I mean, the U.S. was very skillful in avoiding recognizing this as a U.S. banking crisis, so much so that I always say this is the third banking crisis of the U.S. in modern times. But the second one, the first one, which was the Latin American debt crisis, is not even recognized as a U.S. crisis, but it was. The U.S. banks overexposed themselves in Latin America. Latin America could not pay the debt, and the U.S. was very skillful. And that's which, there was a lot of talk at the time of a mechanism to resolve the crisis. It came in very, very bad ad hoc ways, and through the first the Baker plan and then the Brady plan, but which really shows that the lack of a mechanism by which Latin America had brought their problems to a sort of court would have been extremely helpful for resolving that major crisis, which costed Latin America a whole decade of development.